He was the most feared CEO in the company, arrogant, cruel, and used to everyone bowing down to him. But that day, something unexpected happened. A poor girl, the janitor's daughter, calmly said, "I speak 4 languages." He laughed at her, mocking her in front of everyone, never imagining that each word she translated would expose secrets he had done everything to hide. Stay until the end. When you find out what she revealed, you won't believe what happened next. But before we continue, subscribe to the channel now so you never miss stories that will touch your soul. The corporation's building rose imposingly, its gleaming glass windows reflecting the morning sun, as if declaring that power and control reigned supreme within those walls. Inside the cold, silent offices, everyone was well aware of the cruel CEO's presence. An arrogant man who ruled with an iron fist and rarely tolerated disobedience. His footsteps echoed through the corridors like a silent warning that any misstep would be harshly punished. Employees bowed in his shadow, fearing his sharp words and piercing gaze that seemed to read every thought. It was a suffocating environment, where constant pressure shaped both character and fear, and where few dared to question the orders of such a relentless leader. Despite his wealth and power, there was something in his demeanor that revealed not only arrogance but also an unyielding need for absolute control. The arrogant CEO scrutinized every detail, every movement, ensuring nothing escaped his grasp. Amid this oppressive atmosphere, silent stories of resilience emerged among employees who, though invisible, preserved their dignity in the face of daily tyranny. No one dared to confront him, for humiliation was a constant threat and any mistake was met with cruelty. The respect enforced by fear turned every floor of the company into a stage of constant tension, where every decision and every word carried undeniable weight. In that same building, on a modest, dimly lit floor, a poor girl observed the environment with attentive, curious eyes. The janitor's daughter, she carried a discreet, almost invisible presence, yet within her burned a quiet courage that set her apart from everyone around her. Every task she performed was done with humility and care, but also with an inner strength that allowed her to face challenges others could not even imagine. She knew the secrets of the building, the small gestures that might go unnoticed by the arrogant CEO, and had learned to observe without being noticed. Despite her humble position, she possessed unique talents born of effort and determination, setting her apart in subtle ways. She studied languages on her own, fascinated by cultures and words, developing skills no one in the company suspected. Her world might have seemed small, limited by the environment around her, but her mind was in constant expansion, fueled by dreams of rising above her circumstances and proving that courage and intelligence can emerge from the most unexpected places. She knew her moment would come, and that every detail learned in silence could one day transform her life, and the perception of those who ignored her, completely. The contrast between her humility and the CEO's arrogance created an invisible tension, ready to explode without warning. The day began like any other, with the arrogant CEO reviewing reports and issuing orders with calculated precision, unaware that the unexpected was about to unfold. Employees moved cautiously, avoiding any mistake that could trigger confrontation or public humiliation. But among them, the poor girl carried a secret no one had yet discovered: her ability to speak 4 languages fluently, a skill developed in silence through absolute dedication. Fate seemed to smile subtly, laying the groundwork for a twist that would shake the entire structure of power the CEO believed unshakable. She was about to be tested in a way that would challenge not only her abilities but also her courage and determination. Every step taken that day was charged with tension and anticipation, creating a palpable suspense that left anyone wondering what might happen when her gift was finally revealed. The arrogant, overconfident CEO had no idea that this small act of humility and courage would set in motion a chain of events no one present could have foreseen. And so, As the morning went on, everyone was about to witness the beginning of an emotional story, one marked by resilience, justice, and an unexpected turn that would change everything forever. She walked through the company's corridors with silent steps, almost as if she were part of the shadows cast along the glass walls. No one noticed her presence. To the arrogant CEO and the terrified staff, she was nothing more than the janitor's daughter, someone without a voice, without importance. Yet every glance she cast absorbed details that escaped even the most experienced eyes. She observed the CEO's arrogance, the subtle gestures of manipulation, and the silent reactions of the employees who, despite their fear, still carried within them a spark of hope. Her life was marked by humility, but also by an unshakable inner strength, born of years of challenges that had taught her the courage and patience needed to survive in a world that ignored her. The girl understood that being invisible did not mean being powerless. On the contrary, it was her opportunity to learn, to grow, and to prepare for the moment when she would finally face the unexpected. Each task she carried out with precision was, in truth, a silent rehearsal for the great turning point that was drawing near. Her spirit, though young, carried a maturity that defied the perception of everyone around her, turning her apparent fragility into a powerful weapon. The contrast between her social invisibility and her rare skill created an almost tangible suspense, as if every passing second was waiting for the moment her courage would be revealed. Even unseen, she observed, learned, and waited, knowing that the chance for justice and a dramatic reversal was about to arrive. While cleaning one of the company's most luxurious rooms, she reflected on her own journey and on the challenge that life placed before her with every step. The humility taught by her mother was not a sign of submission, but of silent strength. Each delicate act of service was an act of discipline and courage. She spoke 4 languages, the result of self-taught study and a determination many would consider impossible for someone in her circumstances. She knew this skill could be the key to transforming her life, and even to exposing the flaws of those who underestimated her. From a distance, she watched the arrogant CEO, analyzing patterns in his behavior and anticipating possible moments when surprise could be turned to her advantage. The girl understood that her time to shine had not yet come, but each day of observation and learning brought her closer to the crucial moment when her courage and intelligence would be tested. It was a game of patience, strategy, and self-belief, where invisibility became a form of silent power. The unexpected was waiting, ready to appear at the right moment, and she was more than prepared for the confrontation that would change everything. And then, on what seemed like an ordinary day, the scene began to shift. The arrogant CEO approached an important meeting, certain that every detail was under his absolute control. But the invisible girl, with sharp eyes and a quick mind, was already noticing cracks that went unseen by everyone else. Subtle signs of arrogance, errors in documents, and gestures that betrayed hidden secrets began to reveal themselves to her alone, offering a unique opportunity for the turnaround that was about to unfold. Every calculated move of the CEO was on the verge of being challenged by a humble yet extraordinarily perceptive mind. The tension grew almost palpably, while the other employees, unaware of what was unfolding, carried on with their routines. And so, amid the apparent normality of the day, the emotional story of the invisible girl began to take shape, showing that courage and intelligence can emerge from the most unexpected places, challenge arrogance, and set the stage for a twist no one would ever forget. The tension in the room rose as the arrogant CEO settled into his leather chair, casting a look of disdain at everyone present. Among the employees, hushed whispers rippled through the air, but no one dared to challenge the authority of the man they all feared. The poor girl, the janitor's daughter, remained silent, her calm expression hiding the storm of courage stirring within her. When she finally raised her voice and said, "I speak 4 languages," the room fell into a heavy silence filled with disbelief. The cruel CEO, accustomed to humiliating those he deemed inferior, laughed loudly, mocking her in front of everyone. To him, it was nothing more than youthful arrogance, a futile attempt to seek attention. But within that unexpected challenge, the girl carried not only skill, but strategic intelligence, ready to turn every word into a silent weapon of justice and surprise. Every glance cast her way was filled with tension and anticipation, for everyone sensed, even unconsciously, that something was about to change. The CEO's arrogance, combined with his underestimation of her, created the perfect setting for the first turning point. And in that moment, the girl knew this challenge was only the beginning of her journey of courage and triumph. She began to demonstrate her skill discreetly, translating small documents and messages with a precision that left some employees stunned. Every word she spoke seemed to carry not only knowledge, but the strength of someone who understood the value of humility and patience. The arrogant CEO, still convinced of his superiority, continued to mock her, yet the growing tension in his expression began to reveal small cracks. He could not foresee the impact of the unexpected, nor how this girl, until then invisible to everyone, was about to shift the entire dynamic of the company. Employees whispered quietly among themselves. She understood that each translation was a piece of the greater challenge unfolding before her, and that every gesture, every word, could lead her to a decisive confrontation. The unexpected was about to erupt in explosive fashion, revealing the courage and intelligence no one suspected existed in this seemingly fragile young woman. The situation evolved with mounting tension, thick with suspense and emotion, foreshadowing a humiliation that only the truth could deliver to the arrogant CEO. Every move she made became preparation for the turning point that would change everything. Finally, the moment arrived when the girl was directly challenged by the cruel CEO. He demanded that she translate a confidential message, laughing cruelly as he anticipated her failure in front of everyone. But with remarkable composure, she began to decipher each word, revealing information no one had imagined. With every sentence she translated, the tension in the room grew, and the humiliation he had intended to inflict began to turn against him. Shock and suspense mingled in the air as the employees realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. The girl's quiet courage was transforming arrogance into vulnerability, and the injustice that had once seemed invincible was beginning to crumble. Each translation was a step toward exposing the secrets the CEO had tried so hard to hide, and the turning point was drawing closer with every word. The room, once ruled by fear, now throbbed with the anticipation of the unexpected. And in that instant, everyone understood that this young woman was not just the janitor's daughter, but a force capable of turning power into justice and humility into triumph. The cruel CEO leaned back in his chair, resting his chin on his hand, and let out a laugh that echoed through the meeting room, dripping with disdain and arrogance. To him, that poor girl, the janitor's daughter, was nothing more than an insignificant provocation, someone who should be dismissed without a second thought. Every word she spoke only seemed to reinforce his conviction of superiority, and he reveled in the humiliation he believed he was inflicting. But behind the cruel smile were small cracks he could not recognize, an insecurity beginning to emerge in the face of the unexpected. Employees exchanged tense glances, torn between fear and a quiet admiration for the young woman's courage. The contrast between the CEO's arrogance and the girl's steady calm created an almost electric tension, foreshadowing the reversal that was drawing near. Every gesture she made, seemingly simple, carried layers of courage, intelligence, and patience, ready to challenge the authority that had long seemed unshakable. The entire room seemed to hold its breath, anticipating what was to come. And in that moment, the narrative of power and submission began to subtly, almost imperceptibly shift, but in a way that was absolutely inevitable. She kept her posture straight, looking directly at him with silent confidence, defying the arrogance the CEO believed to be unquestionable. Each precise translation became an act of disguised justice, proving that intelligence and courage do not depend on wealth or status. The arrogant CEO, used to having absolute control, didn't know how to respond to the girl's unexpected competence. The humiliation he intended to impose began to turn against him, even as he tried to maintain his authority with sarcastic laughter and cutting remarks. The contrast between power imposed by fear and the silent strength of humility created a unique, suspense-filled dynamic. Everyone in the room began to sense that something was changing, that the challenge was not just about language but about morality and emotional resilience. Every word the girl spoke became an instrument of reversal, tipping the scales between arrogance and justice. And as she stood her ground, the CEO began to feel that his position of absolute power was being unexpectedly threatened. The tension grew heavier, and the young woman's emotional story was approaching a critical point that no one could ignore. The climax of the mockery neared when the CEO tried to publicly ridicule her, pointing out non-existent mistakes and hoping she would lose her confidence in front of everyone. But each of her gestures answered him with calm, precision, and intelligence, turning the situation into a lesson in quiet courage and resilience. The humiliation he had planned began to reflect his own arrogance back at him, and everyone present could feel the tension shift into anticipation for the unexpected. Each reaction from the CEO revealed more about his hidden fears and secrets, while the girl continued to command the moment with humility and determination. The emotional story gained momentum, showing that even those considered invisible can change the game and create a powerful reversal. The young woman's courage transformed the confrontation into a lesson of justice and intelligence, proving that true strength does not lie in wealth or power, but in the courage to act with integrity. And in that instant, everyone understood that humiliation, when faced with wisdom, can become a source of learning, respect, and unexpected change. As the girl continued to translate with precision and confidence, subtle details began to emerge, revealing flaws that no one in the company had dared to notice before. Documents, messages, and gestures that the arrogant CEO believed to be secure were hiding information that could compromise his image and authority. Every word she translated acted like a revealing lens, exposing layers of secrets carefully concealed beneath his arrogance. The team began to realize that this was not just a language challenge, but a silent confrontation of intelligence, courage, and justice. The cruel CEO, accustomed to controlling everything and everyone, still did not grasp the magnitude of what was unfolding. He believed that underestimating the girl would keep his power intact, yet each translation became a small crack in his empire of arrogance. The tension grew, as if the air itself carried the anticipation of an imminent turning point. The young woman's quiet courage contrasted sharply with the CEO's vanity, showing that even the most powerful can be surprised by those least expected. Every gesture she made conveyed humility, discipline, and strategic intelligence, making it clear that nothing went unnoticed. The unexpected was about to appear, and the emotional story deepened, promising a twist that would shake the entire company. As the CEO continued to observe, small reactions began to reveal his darkest secrets. He believed that nothing could be exposed, yet the girl's watchful eyes and the accuracy of her translations revealed inconsistencies he could not control. Each decoded sentence became a subtle humiliation, a silent reminder that arrogance and absolute power do not guarantee invincibility. The employees, once intimidated, began to realize that the truth was about to surface in an unexpected way. The young woman, with her discreet courage, turned the challenge into justice, showing that knowledge and humility can overcome arrogance and fear. Every detail revealed created mounting tension, foreshadowing the inevitable confrontation between power and integrity. The arrogant CEO felt the weight of the unexpected, his confidence wavering in the face of the silent evidence of the girl's competence. It was a moment of intense suspense, where the emotional story intertwined with lessons of resilience and bravery. The atmosphere in the room became electrifying, and every observer understood that something significant was about to happen. The turning point was approaching, and no one, not even the CEO, was prepared for what was to come. Finally, the magnitude of what was being revealed began to become clear to everyone in the room. Secrets the arrogant CEO had hidden for years were surfacing before everyone's eyes. The poor girl, the janitor's daughter, remained steadfast as each translation inched closer to exposing the CEO's darkest secret. The humiliation he had intended to inflict transformed into a lesson of justice and reversal, visible to all. The story gained momentum, showing that courage can alter the course of any situation, and the suspense-filled atmosphere made it clear that the transformation was inevitable. Every word translated brought the girl closer to her silent victory, proving that intelligence and courage can change everything. And in that moment, everyone understood that hidden secrets eventually emerge, and that justice can arise from the most unexpected places. The girl, the janitor's daughter, began to translate calmly. The arrogant CEO laughed, unaware of what was about to happen. Then came the shock. She revealed his darkest secret. He had manipulated financial reports to hide multimillion-dollar losses and maintain his image of success. Every word exposed his fraud, leaving him vulnerable in front of everyone. The employees, stunned, finally saw the truth. Silent humiliation began, and the atmosphere shifted instantly. The girl's courage reversed the power dynamics, and what no one could have imagined hearing about their boss was unfolding right before their eyes. The CEO tried to control the situation, but it was already too late. The story was taking a decisive turn. As she continued translating, every detail of the fraudulent scheme was exposed. The CEO tried to disguise his reaction, but each sentence made it clear that he was defeated. The girl demonstrated that intelligence and courage can confront any arrogance. Employees, once intimidated, now watched the CEO in disbelief, realizing that he had the audacity to hide and sustain such an outrageous fraud for so long. The CEO's reputation began to crumble. Everyone understood clearly that this girl had changed everything. In the end, the final sentence of the secret was revealed, and the CEO was completely exposed. Employees absorbed the impact, realizing that arrogance and lies are always discovered. The girl proved that humility surpasses imposed power. The atmosphere had transformed. The CEO, once feared, was now vulnerable in the face of the truth. The story reached its climax, making it clear that justice and truth always prevail. After the revelation of the CEO's secret, the room was in shock. He tried to regain control, but every word from the janitor's daughter continued to expose his fraud. Employees, once intimidated, now watched in astonishment. The young girl's courage had flipped the power in the room. The unexpected had become reality. The most feared man was vulnerable. Each sentence intensified his humiliation and solidified the turnaround. The CEO, powerless, watched his authority crumble. The suspense held everyone's attention. Silent justice was beginning to unfold. The translation continued, revealing more details. Employees felt hope and inspiration. That poor girl was showing that knowledge could change everything. Every word increased the tension. The CEO could no longer control anything. Everyone could see that the truth had won. The account of the fraud held everyone's attention. No one looked away. The CEO's humiliation grew with every sentence. Everyone realized that justice was approaching. At the critical point, the CEO tried to react, but it was too late. The girl's courage dominated the room. Employees saw that he was no longer untouchable. The young woman proved that humility and determination can overcome imposed power. The CEO was vulnerable, and justice was being served. The story demonstrated that ethics and courage always prevail. Everyone understood that this reversal would change everything. The girl's revelation spread through the room like wildfire. The initial silence was broken by murmurs among the employees, who exchanged incredulous glances. The cruel CEO, once so confident, now avoided looking at anyone. He knew he could no longer hide the truth. Everyone there understood that this moment marked the end of his authority. The image of the unbeatable leader had been destroyed in just a few minutes. The scene became a living example of how an arrogant person can be defeated by someone they underestimated. Some employees discreetly recorded the scene on their phones. Others, who had once been submissive, no longer showed any fear. The embarrassment was evident on the arrogant CEO's face, while the young girl stood firm, translating without hesitation. It was impossible to stop her without admitting guilt. Every sentence she revealed was another blow to his reputation. At the height of the humiliation, a senior employee, known for defending the CEO, stood up and demanded an explanation in front of everyone. With no way out, the CEO tried to justify his actions, but the evidence revealed by the girl was irrefutable. The atmosphere changed completely. The employee's trust was shattered, and his authority destroyed. The silence that followed the girl's final translation was suffocating. Everyone stared at the cruel CEO, waiting for a reaction. Then she asked the question that would seal his fate. "Are you going to deny what everyone just heard?" The entire room held its breath. Her courage had transformed the meeting into a courtroom. The company's board, present at the back of the room, stood up. One of the directors declared firmly that, given the evidence presented, the CEO was immediately suspended from his duties, and that an investigation would be opened with the police. Murmurs of surprise spread, and for the first time, the man who had commanded with arrogance appeared small and voiceless. Employees filmed, fully aware that they were witnessing the end of an era. As security discreetly escorted him out, the atmosphere shifted. Tension gave way to a sense of relief and justice. The fact that this girl could speak multiple languages not only exposed a secret, but also toppled an empire built on fear and humiliation. The confrontation was over, but the marks of that day would last forever. What remained was understanding the profound impact of this downfall. In the days that followed, the news spread like wildfire. Newspaper headlines covered the fall of the arrogant CEO and the courage of a poor girl, the janitor's daughter, whose ability to master 4 languages had changed the fate of a giant corporation. For many, it was just another corporate scandal. For those who were there, it was living proof that even the most powerful can fall when they underestimate the truth and those who wield it. The girl returned to her simple routine, though not without receiving messages of support and study opportunities. People who had once ignored her now saw her as a symbol of resilience, courage, and inspiration. She did not boast. She knew her victory was not in the man's humiliation, but in proving that justice can emerge from the most unlikely place. Her mother, the company's janitor, with tears in her eyes, said that day would never be forgotten. Over time, this story became an inspiration for others facing their own challenges and confrontations. Many learned that no matter the size of the threat, when the truth is revealed, justice is inevitable. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and comment where you're watching from.